Hey guys, before we dive into today's episode, I would like to issue an apology. I had someone leave a review and a comment regarding my episode on how to talk to somebody who is dying. They were a little offended by my demeanor. I know I tend to get giggly on this show sometimes, and I do like to try to keep things lighthearted. And this offended that person and hurt them. They're going through something very traumatic with a loved one, and they heard my episode looking for support, and they did not receive that. What they received was, my sense of humor and how I was feeling that day, and it was not helpful to them, and I am deeply and truly sorry. So to that person, if you are listening, which I doubt you are because you kind of intimated that you would not be listening to my podcast any further, but if you are by chance, please reach out to me. I would like to offer you some support pro bono. I would like to help you in some way to make up for that. And please accept my deepest apologies. And please know that I, myself, and my listeners hear you, we see you, and we care about you, and we are wishing you nothing but the best. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today we're going to talk about getting the end-of-life care that you want. Before we dive into that, a couple of little housekeeping things. You may have noticed in your podcast playing platform, whatever it is you're using, that I have changed my logo. I haven't had the orange mohawk in quite some time now. My hair's actually gotten very long, so I thought that felt a little disingenuous. So I just used the logo from my LLC, my business logo is Nikki the Death Doula, punched it up a little bit, simplified it down, and there it is. So thank you. I had a lot of help and feedback from the Feminist Podcast Collective. Wanted to give a little shout out to them as well. I am a member of the Feminist Podcast Collective. We are a community of equity-centered independent creators who empower each other to launch, grow, and amplify our podcasts through mutually beneficial collaborations. Our goal is to uplift diverse voices and drive meaningful change. So happy to be part of this group. We, again, I'm not receiving any money for this or any compensation. We are just a lot of amazing ladies who have podcasts who want to help each other be bigger podcasters. It's a great group. I'm very excited to be part of it. And if you are interested in some of the other podcasts that are part of the Feminist Podcast Collective, I'm going to let you hear about a couple of them right now.
Hi, this is Amy Pons with Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. This podcast is all about the women of the world who are doing things differently, living, working, being, finding their unique brilliance. I tap into their energy, we share a safe space, and we get a little fun, a little spirited and animated. This is a place where we celebrate intersectional feminism and women on the front lines to create the balance between the divine masculine and feminine that we've never seen in this lifetime. And I invite you to explore your unique brilliance. Cheers!
Are you an agency owner navigating this new economy to grow your business? Let's not do it alone. Join me over at the Small But Mighty Agency podcast, where we share top of mind challenges for agency owners today and help you grow and scale. I'm your host, Audrey Joy Kwan. I know what it takes to build a multiple seven-figure agency. I've supported an agency owner to sell and exit. I've coached and consulted with over 150 agency owners, and I have a master's degree in communications, specializing in organizational development. All this to say, I know what it takes to grow, lead, and operate a seven-figure small but mighty agency. Head on over to our podcast, Small But Mighty Agency, to grow together. I'll see you there.
All right. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. We're going to get on with it. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I have to do it, you guys. If you head on over to patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula, you can become a patron of mine. All the funds from my Patreon goes directly to a fund so that I can provide pro bono services to those who cannot afford them. My patrons get early access to this podcast. When I do interviews, you get to see the videos of those interviews. I will throw out, you get grief affirmations in your mailbox, email box, I should say. And occasionally I will do some other bonus content, some Q&As, other things like that. So check it out, patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. But that is not why you are here. You're here to learn about how we can get the end of life experience we want. So if you were to ask just about anybody at this moment, if I were to ask you to visualize your perfect end of life or dying experience, what would it be? I guarantee almost everybody, and this is anecdotal, I'm not reading any, there are research, studies on this, but I'm not reading any of those right now. I'm just talking at a microphone. But anecdotally, I can tell you almost every single person will tell me, I would love to die at home surrounded by my family. And of course you would. Who wouldn't? That sounds amazing. Very few people will answer, I would like to die in a hospital surrounded by a lot of medical professionals with tubes and needles and things jammed into all my arms and face and with a lot of loud noises. There might be somebody out there that's their bag. More power to them. But most people are not going to say that. They would like to die peacefully, quietly at home. But most people are not. As of right now, only about 30% of us in America, this is American statistics, only about 30% of us manage to have that type of end-of-life experience. And that, that's a little sad because I know that's what I want. That's what most of us want. So why isn't this happening? And what can we do to change this? Well, first of all, if you look at things a few hundred years ago, even right here in America, most of us were living in multi-generational homes in small communities in small towns. And we would have sometimes 3, maybe 4 generations of people, if not all living in the same home, living very close to each other. We were in smaller towns at that time. You would have several families that would make up an entire town, and that would be about it. So when it came to end of life, you automatically had a whole town full of people there to help take care of all that. We don't live that way anymore. We don't necessarily, we might live in a small community. We might live in, some of us do live in small towns. But how many of us can name every single one of our neighbors? And how many of us are still living with 3 to 4 generations of people in our homes? Some of us are, and that's amazing. But that's a very, very tiny percentage, a minuscule percentage of people in the United States. And we're just not set up to live that way anymore. With our modern lifestyles, everybody's working. It's rare also to find half the home not employed. Almost everybody's employed these days or doing something to earn an income because we have to afford the modern lifestyle that we have. So it's just not feasible to have that amount of people and that amount of care in one home. So it's really difficult to go through that end of life experience. It's not so easy as you say, well, grandma's going to be in the back room now. She's going to be there for a while. She can't get around as much anymore, but we still take care of her. Now it's, well, grandma's not doing great. Where do we put her? We're also not set up to have lots of people in our homes. Not saying everybody lived in mansions back then. In fact, statistically speaking, our homes are a heck of a lot larger than they ever used to be. But still, are you really set up to have your mom live at your home? And is that even possible? You and your spouse are working and your kids are in school. Like, where would you even have her? Like, we're just not set up that way anymore. And yeah, it's sad. But also, we as a culture have become a very death avoidant society. When we look at people who are dying, our instinct is to say, ew, and put them somewhere. We don't want that around us. We don't want them in our homes. And it sounds very callous of me to say this, but it's true. Most of us feel like we don't need to do that because there are places that will do that for us. And you're not wrong. But I've been seeing a lot of statistics that I've mentioned here on this show as well, that the baby boomer generation is huge. And I think by 2030, they're estimated to be 80 million people over the age of 80. I think that's right. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. In the United States. And the amount of caregivers are like 2 million or 20 million. Like, that's a big number difference. I don't know if you guys can rationalize how large of a number that is. I can barely conceive of it, but it's a huge difference, right? We have a lot more people that we need cared for and a lot fewer caregivers. And that's just the way the population has worked out. Yeah, we just don't want to be looking at that. And we've been doing this for a while, guys, well before this whole, disparage of numbers between generations. We've been putting people into facilities that will care for our elderly so we don't have to. And I'm not saying it's because, I'm not going to do that. But like I was just talking about, it's just not feasible for us to be able to provide 24-hour care and to give skilled care. How many of us are actually nurses, right? Without that knowledge of how to care for somebody who is, with dementia, Alzheimer's, even just advanced age with memory issues, not even memory issues, just other physical limitations. We don't have the ability to know how to do all that right now. So we kind of keep it away from us. And then they die somewhere else. And then somebody else comes in and takes their body and cares for it. We look at them one more time and say, I love you, goodbye, and have whatever done with their remains that they had wished. And we're very hands off in that anymore. Sure, in a perfect world, we would all be able to care for our own elderly parents and we would all be able to care for our own deceased loved ones, but we're just not that culture anymore. So many people are dying alone in facilities, hooked up to machines, and just not getting that end-of-life experience they really want. So what can we do about this? Well, first of all, I'll just say I don't have all the answers. I can't create a perfect world. I could, but it's not feasible. So what can we do to at least be a little kinder, a little gentler, and end up having the end-of-life experience we want? For those of us who are my age, who have a little ways to go, we can start planning now to make some of these things happen. A couple ideas, and then I'll give you some little tips at the end on things you can start doing. First thing to understand is, and I'm not going to get soapboxy. I'm literally not, because that's not what this is about. But yes, doctors went to medical school for a very long time. They are incredibly smart. Okay, they have to be to learn everything they learn. But they don't always know more about us than we think they do. And that's only because they are not inside our bodies and they are not inside our minds. I've mentioned on this podcast before, and there's so many amazing books out there about that disconnect between the doctors and their patients sometimes, because doctors are taught to save lives, and that's great until a person no longer needs to have their life saved. They're going to continue to suggest different treatments, different options to prolong life, and somebody at the end of their life might not want that. And this is something I see a lot with my clients is when I take on a client who's still receiving treatment, they're getting that point where like, I don't want to do this anymore. But their doctor keeps saying, we'll try this one more thing. We'll do this one more. It's going to be great. Or their family's like, keep fighting, Mom. And they don't want to. They're tired. And sure, there might be another 10 amazing treatments out there that could prolong your life 6 more months. But what is your quality of life going to be? So it's okay to maybe just, you don't have to tell your doctor to shove off and kick rocks, right? But you could at least say, well, doc, what if I don't want to do that? What will it look like? And hopefully if they're a good doctor, they will say, okay, let's see about palliative care or hospice treatment then to keep you comfortable. Instead of just saying, no, you don't know what you're saying. Let's keep pushing this. It's okay to ask questions and to push back a little bit. You don't have to blindly follow everything your doctor wants you to do. Question them. And if, they've got great, responses or whatever, great reasoning, okay, but you're allowed to question them. They might not understand where you are mentally. And so many of us, myself included, especially women, have a hard time advocating for ourselves. And I'm an introvert and I have a hard time speaking up on my own behalf. I recognize that fault in myself. We have to understand that it's okay to do that. Sometimes if it's a matter of taking somebody with you to your doctor's appointments to jab you in the ribs to say, remember, we talked about this in the car on the way here. Have a good friend help you out if you need to. So, and that kind of leads into another thing about end of life. Be proactive. Ask questions about end of life care. Even if you are continuing to pursue treatment, even if you are not even really all that sick yet, if you are being treated by a doctor for any type of life-limiting illness, go ahead and ask them about end of life care. What's available? Start researching what you might want. Is there a facility you'd like to go to? If there's a type of, treatment you want, whatever it is, start researching these things. Learn about what end of life care exists right at that moment and what you want. It's okay to educate yourself, but also ask your doctor questions. Be like, look, I want to continue these next 3 rounds of chemo, but if those don't work, what's next? What is that going to look like for me? So yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. And then lastly, similar to what I just said, do educate yourself. Do yourself a favor and learn about what's available, what's out there, what's in the world, what's in your local community. And it doesn't have to necessarily be hospice. Hospice is part of palliative care. Palliative care is for when you have a life-limiting illness, but you might not necessarily have a prognosis of death. This is for people who have ALS or even cancer, any type of illness that will eventually end your life, but it's not on the imminent horizon. Look into palliative care. See what they have to offer. See what resources they have. But just start looking into any type of end-of-life care you might be interested in. With that, talk to your friends and family about it. Let them know you have learned about a specific program you like, or there's a palliative care center that you are interested in pursuing. Let them know, because they might need to know that. They might want to know that. That way they can also better understand you and where you're at. So some things we can do now for people who are not exactly facing end of life, my listeners who are like me, who are, not facing death immediately. I'm not even going to put an age number on this. Even if you're 85, 90, if you haven't taken proactive steps yet, let's talk about real quick just a few things we can do to help prepare ourselves for end of life. And none of this is going to be new. These are all things I've mentioned a million times on this episode. But first and foremost, I just said it a second ago, talk to your loved ones. Talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to the people in your life about the different things you like. I'm that weirdo at the party that always talks about man, wouldn't it be cool if my funeral was a roast? I'm sorry. I have a background in comedy. A lot of my friends are comedians, and I swear to God, if my funeral is not a roast, y'all done me wrong. But they all know this about me now because I bring it up all the time. And yeah, it's kind of a funny haha, but yeah, make it happen. I'd be down with it. But talk to your friends and family about different things you are curious about, scared about. If you really don't want to die alone, make sure people know that. Make sure people understand I don't want to be alone at the end of my life, because a lot of times when somebody's sick or dying, other people around are like, oh, I don't want to get in their way. I don't want to bother them. They might want you to get in the way and bother them because they don't want to be alone because they're scared. So tell people about these things. Don't be afraid to talk to your friends and family, especially people that might be helping to take care of you when you get there. Also, most elder care is going to be done by family members. I just talked about that huge disparity in numbers between our aging population and the amount of caregivers, like skilled nursing or skilled home aid caregiving. It's a huge gap. A lot of family members are going to be learning to take care of their elder ones. And for the younger folks out there, if you have parents that are getting older, start learning about ways you can help at home. Take some trainings, take some classes. I know here in Central Ohio, the Franklin County Office on Aging they do presentations. There was one at the library down the street from me. They have talks, they have webinars, they have all sorts of even just books and education you could go get from them on caregiving that will teach you things you need to know, what to look for, when to ask for help, learn how to be a caregiver. Okay? But yeah, talk to your loved ones. Let people know your wishes. What's the best way to do that? Tip number 2, you know I'm going to say it. Fill out your advance directives. Fill out your advance directives. I cannot say it enough. Oh my gosh, fill out your advance directives. Okay. Get your power of attorney. Get your living will. Get your healthcare proxy, whatever it is you need to do. And if you need help with all of that, let me know. We'll talk through it. Okay. Another thing we can start doing is thinking about financial planning. And I know, boring. And none of us have any money. Lord knows I'm broke. I can't even really afford health insurance right now, so I can't think about buying long-term care insurance, although that would be lovely. But there are different ways we can start financially saving for long-term care. There are long-term care insurances, which have with clients I work with. Some of them are using those benefits, which is great. That's what you paid for. And it's helping to pay for things like having me come in or have somebody come in to help them take a shower or bathe or whatever, so their children don't have to do that for them. So look into long-term care insurance. Look into what programs are available in your area. There are a lot of public programs or funded programs to provide care and support for the aging and elderly. So look around what's in your area. You can talk to an elder care law attorney or elder law attorney. A lot of times they will not only, most of the ones I've spoken with or met with here in Central Ohio will tell me that they not only tell their, prospective clients too, they will do the legal stuff, like they'll put together your paperwork for you, but they can help you. And a lot of these will do this for free, maybe a very small fee, but they'll help you fill out your Medicaid applications or your Medicare applications. They'll help you understand which levels you need because there's different types out there. They can help you get that together, right? And that's a huge help. There's so much they can do. And again, take somebody with you. Take somebody with you to make sure they're not trying to pull one over on you. Sometimes you just need a second set of ears to hear something. But they can help you fill out the paperwork you need. They can help you find other care services. They are very well connected. They are part of the same elder care networking groups I am. So elder law attorney offices can help too. But make a plan. Okay? That's it. That's it, you guys. I just wanted to share some knowledge on that. It breaks my heart that we can't have the end of life experience we used to, but I also understand that we can't. That's not how we're set up anymore. But there are ways to get around it. There are things we can do to have a better end of life experience. So with that, it is now time for the Death Deck. Woo. All right. Shuffle this up. Pull one at random. Whoops. I always drop half of them on the floor. Okay. Oh, this is a interesting one. Okay. Would you consider sending your cremated remains into space? Yes, absolutely. I think I deserve this kind of send-off. B, maybe, if convinced it's environmentally sound. Or no, I beg of you, please spend money on something more useful. I'm going to say C. I don't need that. Also, I have specifically mentioned to my loved ones more than once that I don't want to leave the atmosphere. I am perfectly happy on this planet. Leave me here. Yeah. My family knows. My family, all my loved ones, and my friends too, know my wishes. So they know what I want. But yeah, for the love of God, that has to be so expensive, and that is completely unnecessary. If I have that kind of money left over at the end of my life, do something nice with it, okay? Donate it to people who need it. Don't spend it on stupid crap like shooting me into space. All right, enough of that. That was very opinionated of me, and I apologize. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on shooting your cremated remains into space. I really would. I'd be interested to hear from you about your thoughts on the show. The best place you could do that would be to leave me a review. You can leave me a little rating and review, and that helps more people find this podcast. That'd be amazing. and I would appreciate it if you would do that. That's something you do that takes like 30 seconds. It doesn't cost you any money, too. You don't have to go to Patreon. You're right there on the app listening to me right now. Just open up the app, click the little thing where it says rate and review, and do that. Okay. If you'd like to tell me your answer to the death tech question, you can find me at nikkithedeathdoula.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Nikki the Death Doula. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. You know I love and appreciate each and every one of you. And remember, as always, your grief is yours, your feelings are valid, and grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.